Hi guys, it's Beth. Welcome back to my channel, and today it's time for another thrift flip, trash to treasure, or just DIY home decor process, whatever you want to call this. I have a few things that I have picked up or had left from over the years from Dollar Tree or on clearance at Michael's, and I'm trying to make it more of my focus this year. It's one of my crafty goals to start using some of these items every month from my stash and kind of thin out my stash a little bit. So this month I have a couple of different quick projects, and you're going to be seeing this after Valentine's Day. Some of them are Valentine's related, but then there's a couple that are going to be either Valentine's and St. Patrick's or like multi-holiday. So I just went ahead and left the Valentine's only ones in as well, just because they were pretty quick. So the first project I'm going to do is use another one of these sign boards that I had left from a Dollar Tree sign. There were metal words on here that I had harvested and used for something else, and I had 3 of these signs left. You saw me use one around Christmas, just before Christmas, and I made it into a Christmas and winter reversible sign, and I really liked that. I liked having that option, and so I decided, and I don't have any Valentine's Day signs or St. Patrick's Day signs, so I decided to go ahead and turn one into Valentine's and St. Patrick's. So I'm going to be using this along with a couple of pieces of wood grain paper from Hobby Lobby. I just liked that wood grain. It's one of my favorite new wood grains that they have. So that will be, and then I also have some decals and some other embellishments that I'm going to be putting on here. These are just some old pickup truck decals that I have purchased and cut from my silhouette out of some black vinyl. And then, so that's going to be like a multi-holiday project. And then I also have this arrow sign, this wooden arrow, and this is from the Dollar Tree. And what I'm going to do with this one is I hope to turn it into something that I can just kind of change out the symbol and make it, you know, what do they call them? Like an eternal decor piece. So like I'll have a heart for Valentine's Day, a shamrock for St. Patrick's Day, and I can just kind of change it out for each holiday or season. So I'm going to be starting with this arrow, and I was hoping that I could cover it, and I might still be able to cover it. Use this dark wood grain paper to cover it. I may just have to kind of piece it together here in the middle where it'll be covered up with some of my little symbols, but I'm going to cover it in that dark wood grain, and then I have a heart that I'm going to cover in this pink gingham, so that will go on for Valentine's Day. And then I just have this chipboard circle that I had die cut at some point. It's been in my stash for a while, but it's the perfect size to fit this little shamrock that I also had cut in already in my stash. And so I'm going to cover this circle with just this green wood grain and then layer on the shamrock. So those are the only two. I haven't figured out what I want to do for like a spring or Easter symbol yet. So that's something I can kind of make and add on throughout the year as I go. And then the last one I'm going to do was just using another little wood piece that I had in my stash. I picked up a bunch of different shapes on clearance at Michael's last year, and so it's just like a wood MDF heart. It's already painted, and I am just going to cover it with this buffalo plaid pattern on both sides, and it'll just be a little piece that I can tuck into my tier tray. So nothing major, but I just thought since I'm doing this, I might as well go ahead and include this as well. So I am going to kind of take you along with the process, and I will be Mod Podging, so I will kind of explain what I'm doing and share the products that I'm using along the way. And then just real quick, these were just these are going to go on my vinyl pieces here. They will layer like in the backs of the trucks, And I just decided to go with some patterned paper so that I could add a little bit of like kind of dimension and pops of color on these signs as well. So anyway, that's all that I have already pulled out and pre-cut, and now let the Mod Podging fun begin. Okay, so I am going to first just trim off the jute string that was on the sign, and I am going to save that for later so I can just put it back on. For the paper, all I'm going to do is take my sign and trace it on to my scrapbook paper. Simplest way to do it, and I am turning it to face the paper, and then this is the paper that's going to go on that back side. So I'm just taking a scissors and trimming this out, and then I do try and cut out on the outside of my pencil line, and then I will come in later on with a good eraser and just erase any pencil lines that are left. I just find that's the best way to ensure that my paper will reach all the way to the end of the piece that I want to cover. So that part is done, and I am just going to label that sheet what side of the sign it's going to go on so that later on I don't get mixed up. Not that I wouldn't be able to tell, but still, I just kind of keep everything in order. So here I am going to do the same thing for the front sign. This time I have the front of the sign facing up on the front of the scrapbook paper, and am doing the same process, and we'll cut that out. So I went ahead and cut out that second part of me cutting because it's just cutting. So I do go ahead and label that one. And next I bring in my giant bottle of matte Mod Podge. And I have my Mod Podge scraper, a foam brush, and then because we use the big bottle, I just pour it into a little tray. You can use a smaller bottle or, pour it into a bowl, whatever floats your boat. When you are adding paper to something with Mod Podge, you want to make sure you cover the surface of your item with Mod Podge as well as the back side of your paper. This does two things. One, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room when you're trying to line your paper up on the object you're adding it to. And two, it helps you get a better seal and eventually will reduce bubbles, because the bubbles form because the air gets in between the paper and the surface you're putting it on. So adding the Mod Podge to the back side of your paper kind of helps eliminate any spaces for air to form, I guess. So I have found that sometimes if I miss a spot on the edge, then that's where it kind of gets dry and bubbles will start to form. But just thought I'd throw that little tip in there. I know there's a lot of people who say you don't have to Mod Podge the back of the paper, and that's their choice, and that's fine. I just find that this works best for me and gives me a much better hold. So here I just repeated the same process on the back side and am just burnishing it down. And I do burnish it a lot longer than what I'm showing you. Sometimes I'm a little OCD about it, and I will just go forever until I believe it's totally smooth. So I've weeded a lot of that footage out for you. So just make sure you get all the air bubbles out. Smooth it out from the middle to the ends first, so that pushes any of the air out away from the center and out the edges. Okay, my paper is on, and now I get to apply my vinyl decal. I am using some transfer tape, and I get this off of Amazon. I will include a link below if you're interested. I prefer the tape, like there's clear transfer tape, there's like a kind of an opaque transfer tape, and then there's ones with grid lines. I like the clear with the grid lines. I feel the grid lines can help me line things up, and it's especially helpful when I'm trying to do like a multi-layered piece. So here you can see I'm going to take one of those grid lines and line it up with the bottom of the word St. Patrick's Day, so I know I'm getting my transfer tape on straight, and I'm just kind of using my silhouette scraper to burnish it down, and then I'm peeling the backing off. And you're going to see here where I'm trying hard to line it up, and it's a struggle for me today, apparently. And I accidentally get the middle set down, and then when I'm trying to get the middle off, I put the bottom down and it's not where I wanted it at all. It's horribly crooked. And yeah, so I pretty much wasted a sheet of vinyl. So I'm going to peel this off and set this aside and come back to that. So I did get all of that vinyl off my transfer tape, and I'm reusing the same transfer tape piece, and I'm going to try again on the Valentine's Day side and hope that the second time works much better. So again, after I get my transfer tape on my decal and get it burnished down a little bit, I'm just trying to work off the backing. And now I can add it to my piece, and this time I do a much better job of getting it centered and down. So I'm just using my scraper, my silhouette scraper tool, to kind of gently go over the vinyl parts just to make sure it's going to stick while I peel off the transfer tape. And then once I get the transfer tape off, I'm also going to take the scraper and go over the vinyl just to make sure it's got a good seal. So you could see I kind of clapped there for a second because at least this part worked. And now I get to add my heart. So I have not put any Mod Podge on top of my paper yet. And that could have helped save the other side. But I like the seal that I get putting the vinyl directly onto the paper without the Mod Podge. So that's why I don't Mod Podge my paper before I put the vinyl on. But like I said, it could have saved my St. Patrick's Day side. So here I'm just trying to trim my hearts because I want them to look like they're sitting in the back of the pickup truck. And so I'm going to trim them down, and I do realize that you probably, I don't know if I should have let them continue or add like the strip kind of under. There's I don't know how to describe it. There's a line there under the very top of the truck, you know, where it shows some of the wood grain. So I was trying to figure out if I should include a strip of the hearts there too, and decided against it. So anyway, I just Mod Podged the area where the hearts go, Mod Podged the back of the hearts, and then put them where they wanted them and kind of burnished them down with my black scraper tool. And now I am putting the seal coat on top of my sign, and I do come back and do 2 coats, but I am only showing you one for time. So I have recut my St. Patrick's Day decal, and I also retraced and cut the paper for the sign and just put it back on over what was already there. And I wouldn't do this if I were trying to sell the sign, but for me it's fine. And this time I do get the decal on just the way I wanted it, no issues. So I left this in, I left the mistake in just so you could see that it is fixable, that there is a way to correct a mistake that you might make. So now that I've got my decal on, I'm going to burnish everything down just to make sure the vinyl will stick. And I'm going to bring in the shamrocks or the clovers that I cut. So on the original decal file, it just kind of shows them just kind of up in the air above the truck and behind the truck. So they weren't really connected to the truck at all. I decided to make it look like they were in the back of the truck and that they were it was so full that some were falling out the back. So I kind of fussed with this for a little bit. And I decided to go ahead and trim off the stems on those big ones that are going to be in front. And then I'm trying to figure out how I want it. So there's one that I don't even use. And then I have one that just kind of looks like it's falling right out of the back of the truck. So I'm going to put my Mod Podge down just in the area where my clovers are going to go. And then we'll kind of line these up. And you'll see me come in here. I will put vinyl on top of some of the clovers if I'm overlapping them with another clover. And that's just to make sure that they're going to stick. And I do kind of put some of those smaller ones that are going behind. I do leave the stems on those and kind of raise them up so it almost looks like they're bouncing up out of the back of the truck. And then I'm going to put that one that looks like is falling out the back. So I burnish these down gently. I want to make sure that they're not going to move around. And like there's one I realized it needs a little bit more Mod Podge. And then once I get these burnished down, I can add my coat of Mod Podge to the top. So this coat of Mod Podge that I put on top of my paper in my image, that just helps seal it all in. So like you've glued it on, and now this just helps to seal it and protect it. And again, I do 2 coats just to make sure that it's good and sealed. And then there is dry time that I'm not showing you. I do let it dry for several hours in between coats. And here I've got both coats. I've got 2 coats of Mod Podge on both sides. And now I am just going to add the polyacrylic. And I will show you the polyacrylic later when I am working on one of the other projects. So again, I do 2 coats of the poly. And what this does is this helps seal it in even more. And Mod Podge tends to have a little tacky feel. And so the polyacrylic actually gets rid of that. So I have now done 2 coats of Mod Podge on both sides, and now I'm pulling out my We Are Memory Keepers corner chomper and punching a hole. Like this thing punches a hole through just about anything. And so I just kind of punch a hole. I kind of eyeball an equal distance from each side, pull out that jute twine that originally came on the side, and retie a knot in one end. And easy as that, my sign is done. So here it is hanging. I'm excited to be able to have a reversible St. Patrick's Day and Valentine's Day sign. I don't have one of these yet in my stash, so I'm excited to add this to my decor. Now we're coming back to the arrow, and like I said, I wanted to try to make this piece of wood grain cover my arrow, and I know that it wasn't long enough originally, so I just cut it in half, and I'm going to overlap it. And I was trying to kind of line it, like overlap it, so that you wouldn't be able to tell, that there wouldn't be a big noticeable difference in where the grain lines went. I'm going to have something kind of covering the middle of it anyway, so you're not going to see where it overlaps, but I just want to make sure that both pieces are going to line up fairly well. So I did the same thing where I just traced out my shape and am cutting it out. And then we'll come back in and erase any pencil marks before I add it to my arrow. And I will link the signs. I don't know if I'll be able to find that one sign from the Dollar Tree because it was a Christmas sign from a few years ago, but I believe they still have the arrow sign, so I will find that and try to link that below. So now I have it cut and I'm ready to Mod Podge it, but first I'm going to come in and trace the circle for my chipboard circle and my wooden heart. And just doing the same process, tracing, cutting. So this, just the ability to trace any shape and add paper to it kind of makes possibilities limitless, I think. And I've said it before, I'm not a very good technique painter, so the fact that they have pattern papers in all kinds of patterns and wood grains, I love it. And here I realized I had die cut that chipboard circle. I totally could have die cut the paper and saved myself this step, but I was just kind of in the zone and going with the flow, so it worked out okay. And then here is that random MDF heart that I had picked up that I decided I wanted to go ahead and Mod Podge as well. I just wanted to do it since I was kind of in that mode. Same thing, I'm going to trace out both sides so that I can cover both sides because this will sit in my tiered tray, which can be seen from both sides. So I will get this cut out as well. And I'll look and see if they still have, if Michael's has anything like this. Like I said, these were from a few years ago, and I picked them up super cheap on clearance. So anytime I see any of their wood or MDF or metal shapes on clearance, I usually try and snag them so that I can use them for something fun like this in the future. So here I'm labeling it again just to make sure that because it is a little bit lopsided, it wasn't like an even symmetrical heart. So now I'm just adding Mod Podge. I added it to the top of my plywood heart and to the back of my plaid paper, and I'm burnishing it down. I did speed this video up 3 times just for time's sake because a lot of it's repetitive. I believe this part I may have sped up a little bit more just because you've seen me do all the important steps before, but here I'm just adding the Mod Podge on top of the heart. And I'm going to move on to the MDF heart next, making sure I get the right side, the right paper on the right side. And if you're doing something that's two-sided, usually you can do both sides pretty much back to back to put the paper on. It's just when you are doing the seal coat is when you're going to have to do one side of it at a time and then let each side dry. So here you can see I just finished that one side and now I'm going to go do the other side. I've really been enjoying trying to use up some of these decor upcycle thrift flip type items from my stash. And so far it's been holiday based, and hopefully soon I can do some that maybe aren't holiday based, but I've been kind of in holiday decor mode lately. So, and then this, I would have preferred a plywood circle, but I didn't have any, so I was just trying to use what I had. So I'm using the chipboard circle. And once I get the Mod Podge on it and the paper, it does curl a little bit, so I did have to kind of lay it underneath something to help flatten it out after the Mod Podge had dried on my final coats. So just an FYI if you're using chipboard. And then here I am going to add my little 4-leaf clover on top. And this is a clover that I had cut out with my silhouette a long time ago. So it was nice to use that up from my stash as well. And I'm looking forward to being able to add to my arrow some of the other holidays down the road. Kind of make it, being able to change out the symbol on it with each season or holiday. I'm all about easy holiday decorating, so. Okay, so I am showing you here the polyacrylic. It's mid-waxed, water-based polyacrylic, and again, I use the matte finish. And you can find this on Amazon or Lowe's, Home Depot, but I will link it below as well. And it's same type of foam brush that I use for the Mod Podge. So I don't know why, but I didn't film me putting the Mod Podge on the arrow. So I did do I Mod Podged the paper onto the arrow, and I did 2 coats to, seal it, and then I did the 2 coats of the polyacrylic. Not sure why I didn't film it or what happened to that footage, but so here I am just using, it's the 3M like hook and loop type tape, the Velcro picture hanging strips, and I just took one and cut it in half, and am adding, one side, I added one side to the arrow itself, and then took the other piece and laid it on top of it, and then pulled the backing off, and then put my symbol on so that it would attach to my symbol as well. So this is what will allow me to kind of change out the symbols throughout the season. And I just chose this because I was worried if I didn't have a lot of my normal hook and loop tape left, and if I had to get some more down the road, I was afraid it wouldn't stick well. So anyway, these are my fun projects. I hope you guys enjoyed this process and enjoyed the projects that I made. Maybe got some ideas to make some of your own. But I thank you guys so much for your time today, and I hope you're all having a very crafty day.